Alright, hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So I've been summoned back to YouTube because I want to talk about what's going on with Balan Wonderworld. I've been kind of blown away by the pretty much internet-wide backlash and hate and just dogpiling on a game that I feel is quite enjoyable. I really do like Balan Wonderworld, and in this video I wanted to touch upon why I like it so much and, what are the bad points about the game. It's not a perfect game by any means, but I think the hate that this game is getting is pretty unjustified, and I think a lot of people are being pushed away from wanting to play or try this game that would otherwise really enjoy it. And you guys know me, I am a big fan of 3D platformers, and I know a lot of people trust my opinion because a lot of you feel like your taste in games aligns quite heavily with mine. So hopefully if you haven't really put much thought into trying Balan Wonderworld, by the end of this video, maybe I can convince you otherwise. So first of all, if you've never seen my videos before, I should probably give a bit of a disclaimer here. I am a huge Sonic fan. I also consider myself to be a fairly big Knights fan. So going into this, know that, while I don't directly compare Balan Wonderworld with Sonic games or Knights games, it's important to know that, people would say there might be some bias there. I personally don't think my review of this is biased by the fact that I am a big Sonic fan, because to be honest, this game, outside of a couple of similar character designs, it really plays nothing like a Sonic game, but I figured you should know that going in. You should also know that despite me being aware that this game is getting a lot of backlash and a lot of criticism, I have actually chosen not to watch a single video or read a single review about Balan Wonderworld and why that said review or video dislikes the game, because I like the game. I have no reason to read why people dislike it. And I also figured this was an interesting take to go in and talk about the game, because this way I'm not tainted by having possibly my opinions on the game changed by reading others' perceptions of what they dislike about it. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about my experience playing the game. I played the PS5 version, and I will say that yes, it doesn't feel like a next-gen game in terms of visuals, and it's one of those games that was, of course, developed in tandem to be a past-gen PS4 game, as well as be a PS5 game. I didn't feel like I was playing a next-generation game. It could have easily have been a PlayStation 4 game. It didn't feel like I was playing a PS5 version of the game. However, that's to be expected in the early lifespan of a new console generation. First thing I wanted to touch upon after clearing up what version I was playing was the demo. So this is the hottest point of contention, right? Everybody was really excited for the trailer of Balan Wonderworld when it was first released. I was very, very hyped for this game when I saw the first trailer. And once I played the demo, I will say that some of my excitement was, put in the check. In some instances, I wasn't completely a fan of how they were handling the costume system and the overall speed of the game. But this is something that I wanted to say to people that maybe only really followed the game during the demo phase of this, or played the demo and really didn't care for it. After having played the full game, they chose the worst levels from the game to put in the demo, and I think this is a huge misstep on their part. I'm not sure what they were thinking, but every level that you play in that demo is easily one of the worst levels that you can play in the entire game. That first level in the cornfield where the level is warping and giving people motion sickness, I completely agree. That is one of the worst levels in the game, and kind of makes some people uneasy. It made me a little uneasy with the weird level warping, and that only really appears one more time later in the game to much better effect, in my opinion. And then the level with the gears, where you transform into the costume with the little gear character, and you're like just turning switches, and very boring level. The costume choices were just like, what were they thinking? I'm not really sure. I don't know why they chose that level, which fails to highlight some of the more fun costumes and some of the more fun level design. And then you had the meadow level, which was it was okay. That was the one where you can transform into the sheep and you ride the propellers in the air, and it's a fine. That level is one of the better ones, but still the costumes don't really do anything to get you excited. It's just you can hover very slowly as a sheep, right? I mean, there's nothing quite exciting about that. And the level itself is a little bit slow. And outside of that, the demo levels were quite bland. But when you play the full game and you start to discover some of these new areas, now, obviously, this is going to be a vlog-style video, and I do apologize, but that's the style I take on YouTube these days, so I'm not going to have fancy editing to show you all these different levels. We're just kind of sitting down here to talk old-school style about what I think of this game. But I'm sure you've all seen the game at this point, right? Because there's plenty of videos out there highlighting all the poor points of it. So I think you've seen plenty of the game. And I will link in the description below. I will link to my full playthrough of this that I played on Twitch. It took me just about 30 hours to beat the game. Actually, not 30 hours to beat the game. I played about 30 hours of the game in total. It took me about 12 hours to beat it. I did a speed run of the game. I did some post-game costume and glitch hunting and all kinds of fun stuff. So there's plenty of content out there. And I'm also in the description if you're curious to get my initial review of this game. As soon as I finished the game and the credits were rolling, I gave a like 5 to 6 minute review of my first off-the-cuff impressions of the game immediately after beating it, which I know I'm kind of jumping around here, but I also thought it was important for me to put some time between beating the game and doing this video. Like, I knew I wanted to come back to YouTube and do this video specifically, but I felt it was important to put some spacing between beating the game and reviewing it, because that way I'd kind of come down off of whatever highs I was on from beating the game and kind of give you guys a more realistic take. Anyway, demo. I agree. The demo was not the greatest. I played it about 5 hours. I pretty much did everything you can do in that demo, and I agree. It wasn't the best demo in the world. I think it was one of the biggest faults that they could have done for Balan Wonderworld. It turned off a lot of people. The movement in the demo was quite slow. You know, it didn't bother me too much, but it was quite slow. One of the first things I noticed when playing the full game, they have increased the movement speed. The overall movement speed has been increased, and it makes a big difference. You can definitely tell the difference from playing the demo and going to the full game. It feels a bit faster. I don't know if this is like confirmed what the movement speed increase was, but it just felt different. It felt better. It felt like a more speedy game. But that's also something that I think a lot of people have a misconception about. They see the designs of the characters, they think Sonic, because heck, the main character kind of looks like Sonic in his design. So they think this game should be fast. And I don't disagree with them. I think the character designs should have differentiated themselves a little bit from what people would perceive as a character that probably should be moving fast. And I think at times the game does move a little bit slow, right? It's not a perfect game. There are costumes in the game that allow you to run fast. Heck, there's a costume that allows you to sprint through the game. So there are these costumes that alleviate some of the problems. However, it's one of the biggest complaints is the controls. So this is a topic of hot contention, where when you pick up a costume, there's only one button. Essentially, every button does the same thing, whether that's, you can jump and then use your ability, or you can't jump and you just use your ability. It's something that a lot of people didn't take kindly to, I guess, to say the least. And I don't disagree with them, okay? First of all, I also want to say people can have their opinions on this game. I am by no means saying that people that dislike this game, are wrong. They're entitled to their opinion, just like I'm entitled to my opinion. And I feel like the button system works 75% of the time. And what do I mean by this? The levels are designed in such a way that if you're stripped of your ability to jump, they try to cater the level designs to being able to navigate you through them without needing to jump. So if you're in an area where you're going to be doing a lot of costuming that doesn't have the jump ability, they will have steps and ascensions that will kind of allow you to get where you need to go without needing to jump. Is it a poor decision? Absolutely. I completely agree that stripping every costume of the jump ability is not the greatest choice, but they did take steps to try and alleviate this in the level design. One of my biggest criticisms of this game, and this is not going to be just a glowing review the whole time, I do have criticisms, is when you run out of costumes that no longer have jump and you need to get somewhere that requires a jump, you have to backtrack to a checkpoint to switch costumes, which is way too long of a process, to hopefully have a costume in reserve that you can use the jump ability with. Worst flaw of the entire game. I think they could have alleviated this, or heck, even patched it in where if you can swap back to the default character without the costume, he has the ability to jump. That would allow you to get to places that you would need to go where otherwise sometimes the game completely prevents you. In fact, let's get all the stuff I dislike about this game out of the way first, because people feed off of the negativity of this game, right? That's what you're here for, obviously. One of the other things I really disliked is the costume storage system. So in other words, you collect the costume. If you get hit, you lose the costume, and in order to get it again, you'd have to go back and recollect it. This could have been solved easier by, say, once you collect a costume, you have it permanently, but like maybe you can trade in the gems that you were collecting in the game for like tokens that you can use to unlock the costumes again from like the costume menu, so that way you wouldn't have to backtrack to an entire level and hunt and farm that costume again. Easily one of the worst parts, right? Some of my favorite costumes, they only have one spawn point in the entire game, so in order to get more of them, I'd need to find that costume and then sit there and wait like 30 seconds for it to respawn and recollect it again. This way I can stockpile more costumes, and as a speedrunner and a glitch hunter, trying to speedrun and glitch hunt this game where every time I die I lose my costumes, it was kind of maddening. And it also, even from a casual perspective, taking speedrunning out of it, it really took a lot of my experimentation in terms of what I wanted to try with costumes and made me not want to attempt it, because dying in this game had such a critical consequence, and having to go back and farm costumes was very unfortunate. Those are my big glaring issues with this game, so now we can kind of go back to focusing on the positives and why I think this is a game that warrants being played. But also, when I say warrants being played, I don't mean go out and buy this game for $60, right, plus tax and shipping and whatnot. It's not a game for everybody, and some of that risk might be a bit intense for full price. I would encourage you to wait for a sale. I would encourage you to buy it used. Obviously that's not supporting the developers, the publishers, but it's a bit of a risk to buy it at full price. I completely understand that. But I'm saying down the line, when this game's a little cheaper, you should absolutely give it a chance, especially if you're a fan of 3D platformers. So let's get into now why this game is fun and so worth your time, and why I enjoyed it so much. So first of all, I should get this out of the way. I'm a big fan of 3D platformers, but I'm also starting to become, my interest is waning on 3D platformers that always feel like they need to reinvent the wheel, like they need to do something so unique and so out of the box to try and stand out. So you got like these platformers that are trying all this time manipulation stuff, and you can flip the world upside down, and these abilities allow you to warp between points and like triple jump up here, and all this crazy stuff going on these days that I think they're starting to lose sight of what made 3D platformers fun to begin with, and that's just the pure joy of exploration, seeing the environments, and just having fun platforming and collecting stuff, right? A collect-a-thon platformer. The best way that I can describe Balan Wonderworld is it's like a PS2 era 3D platformer with a higher production, glossy production value to it. And some people see this as a negative. I absolutely see this as a positive. I have been waiting so long for a game like this to come along, where it just throws all of that sort of like feeling like you need to reinvent the genre, and instead coming back to the roots of, listen, sometimes it's just fun to explore and platform and discover things, right? This is a toy box platformer. The gimmick is the costume switching. Nothing crazy about that, right? I mean, it's been in games before. But for some people like me, we like to go back to our roots, and we really enjoy old school 3D platformers, which I think is a dying breed. Yes, a lot of 3D platformers are coming out, but they're always just like, there's always something about them that nitpicks me all the time. Balan Wonderworld doesn't really have too many of those nitpicks. It's just such an enjoyable game to go from level to level, find the different costumes, collect the different statues. I mean, this really brought me back to kind of what it felt to play Jak and Daxter for the first time on the PlayStation 2. Or I wouldn't go quite as far as saying like Super Mario 64 or anything like that. I mean, it's a good game, but let's not get crazy here. But it brought me back to discovering 3D platformers that were, really fun, but not like 10 out of 10 kind of fun in like the PS2 and heck, maybe even PS3 360 era. So the pacing of this game, right? First of all, there's 12 different worlds, and every world is paced perfectly, right? There's 2 levels per world, and then you have the boss. Every time you get to a new level, so for the purpose of this, I'm probably going to mix up the words sometimes. We'll say a stage will be stage 1, stage 2, and then the boss, right? And then the world will be the encompassing of those 2 stages and a boss. So every stage is kept fresh the entire game, because every stage has new costumes. Yes, some of those costumes are a repeat of what you've already kind of used earlier. It kind of power creeps it, so you get a more powerful costume. So yes, some of the variety is a little hit or miss, but it keeps it exciting. The entire time I was playing this game, I was constantly being surprised with what new costumes I was finding, what new abilities I was getting. Some of them were game-breaking. You get a new costume and it's exciting because you're like, oh my goodness, this costume is so powerful. I can go back to one of the beginning worlds and skip to this platform and like experiment finding different secrets, because the abilities you were getting in the costumes are so crazy and like game breaking, and that was fun. It was fun to go back and experiment. So as soon as I beat the game, that's what I did. I went back with some of these late game costumes and I started experimenting with the early levels, and I had a blast with it. But the pacing is great. The levels are never too long. They never really overstay their welcoming. Just as you're starting to get kind of bored of the costumes in that world, and the sort of theatrics and presentation of that world, you fight a boss and you move on to the next world, and it's usually vastly different from the previous one. And speaking of the bosses, I thought they were fantastic, with the exception of a few of them. Most of them were really lively and they had a lot of character to their design. The music was really epic, and just to go off again one more time, the music in this game was amazing. One of the highlights. Soundtrack phenomenal, especially the vocal tracks during like the bosses and the really cringy dance scenes, but we'll get there in a second. We're going to talk about the cringe dance scenes, but the music, excellent, really added to this game. But just getting back to the pacing, this was refreshing because I was entertained throughout from beginning to end of the game, because it was always something new to look forward to. And in terms of the world layouts themselves, there's so many nooks and crannies to try and find hidden collectibles, hidden things to do. It really brought back that sense of sort of wonder and exploration that I feel like a lot of 3D platformers are missing now. Another criticism, and this is another thing that a lot of people are not a fan of, is the hat levels where it's like a quick time event. I think they look cool. I think it's a cool concept. I think they push the button a little too far. They happen too frequently, and I think the number one problem with those things was, yeah, they get repetitive, but if you fail an input, which is really easy to do, you have to restart the entire level all over again to have another shot at it. This is one of the reasons that pushed me away from wanting to 100% this game, because I just couldn't deal with the fact that I would need to reset an entire level from scratch in order to attempt a hat level again. So yeah, like I said, not a perfect game. In fact, I mentioned this in my initial review when I finished it on Twitch. I do feel like this is like a solid 8.5 out of 10. It's not a 10 out of 10, it's not a 9 out of 10. It's just a very solid 8. Very enjoyable game. Anyway, getting back to the game itself. Pacing, fine throughout the whole game. In fact, something else that I'm not sure if people are complaining about, because like I said, I haven't watched reviews and videos of this, but I feel like it's something a lot of people are probably touching upon, is the story. Let's talk about the story. I'm not a big fan of it, but I also don't dislike how they handled the story. I think it was handled in a very nuanced, sort of like bite-sized way. In terms of giving you little vignettes of characters that you meet and then will pretty much never meet again for the rest of the game. It's these little mini stories that conclude after beating the boss in a sort of wholesome way, with the very cringy but lovable dance scenes. Every time I got to one of those dance scenes, I was so happy. And if you watch my streams of this, I was smiling every time one of these happened. It's like, we just need more happiness in our games, right? Like, this game made me happy to play it, and it's not often that I will feel, so happy to just smile through a cutscene in a game the entire time. But this game made me feel that it was just a feel-good game. And yeah, they're a little weird. They're definitely cringy, but man, I just couldn't help but feel good every time I beat a level and you got to see one of those dancing scenes. I do wish they had a few more songs though. But the way that they handle the story is, you're introduced to a character's dilemma. You go through their level, which has a lot of little tidbits and Easter eggs from that character's story. So for example, one of my favorite little additions was, and if you keep an eye out for these details, you'll see them in the fireman level. You'll find a hidden area in there that held a statue, and in the corner of that little hidden area, there's a little playset of a fireman house and a fire truck. And I'm like, oh, that's just such a cool little detail, right? It shows you when this character was younger, he was like playing with the fireman toys because he wanted to be a fireman when he grew up. And it's just little things like that, right, that started adding personal touches to the way that they handled the story in this game. And I think if you really pay attention to the backgrounds, which first of all, the details in these levels and just the way that they're designed is pretty amazing. Some levels more so than others. The one that really stood out to me the most, and is probably my favorite level in the game visually, is the level with the I forget what they call it. It's like, I think it was the third or fourth. I think it's the third act, where the level will switch between nighttime version and like a daytime version, and the nighttime version is like you're in the world of Avatar or something, where it's dark and there's like starlights all over and the colors get really vibrant and the music changes to be this like very ethereal soundtrack. That's the level where you get the butterfly ability. Amazing level, right? Like the visuals in this game sometimes are drop dead gorgeous. But yeah, just I think the encompassing theme of this game with helping people with the dilemmas and, you know, helping them have a better day all comes together at the end of the game when they all come to help you beat the big bad evil villain, right? I mean, the story in this game is nothing to write home about. There's practically no overarching story, but I don't always need a big, complicated, convoluted story. Sometimes I just need fun cutscenes that make you happy, and isn't that what a 3D platform is supposed to do? Make your day, make you happy. Now, of course, I do these videos off the cuff, right? I don't have anything scripted here, so I'm sure there's a lot of points that I'm forgetting about this game that that I'm gonna hope that I'm gonna go back and listen to this again and be like, man, I forgot to talk about that. But I think I've covered all the main points, right? Controls, yeah, we've got issues with the controls. The one button scheme, not always the best, but don't let that push you away. It works when it works, and when it doesn't, it's a little unfortunate. Visuals, we've agreed that this game, when you play it on a next-gen console, it doesn't look like a next-gen game. Especially, I've heard, steer clear of the Switch version. I think it has really bad performance issues, but I think you kind of know that going in if you're a Switch owner. It's always going to take performance hits. Apparently, the demo is so bad they've pulled it off the eShop at some point. I don't know if it's on there still. But just to reiterate, I don't want to go on too long here, but just to reiterate, this is a game that if you are a 3D platformer fan, you should try. You should play this game. You know what actually made me wake up today and be like, today is the day I'm going to come on here and make this review? Because I went on YouTube, and one of my suggested videos was, you know, I'm not going to name names here, but I don't even remember what the person's name was. But there was a review that appeared in my suggested that said, the thumbnail was Balan Wonderworld Review, and then the title of the video was Balan Wonderworld Review, do not play, in capitals. And I'm like, this is it. I got to get on here. Today is the day where I got to come on here and tell people that this game is worth trying. Don't be put off by the negative criticism. And I do think there's too much bandwagoning going on for this game right now. It's not really the fault of the content creators, right? They're entitled to their opinion. But I think one of the problems is, you know, in the day and age of now of YouTube and Twitch, where a lot of people play games vicariously through their favorite content creators, you know, a lot of people don't really play games much anymore. They watch people play games. So when their favorite content creator is like, listen, this game is terrible, don't play this, this is really bad, they, through that content creator, feel like this game is terrible. I completely agree. I haven't played it yet. I haven't even played the demo, but this game is terrible. And I need to let the world know about it. So anytime I see somebody streaming it, like when I was streaming this game, I had so many people coming in and saying, how can you play this trash? This game is terrible. And I asked them, you know, have you played the demo? Have you played the full game? They go silent. They're gone. They don't want to discuss the game because obviously they haven't played it. They're just kind of feeding off of others' opinions of the game. And I think that's really unhealthy for this game. And how I want this all to come full circle too is I think it's really bad for us to be so negative about a 3D platformer, okay? If you're a fan of this genre, we should be working towards embracing a game like Balan Wonderworld that maybe goes back to the basics, maybe a little bit too much at times, but like not every 3D platformer needs to reinvent the genre, right? I've mentioned this earlier. When we see a game like this, we should embrace it, you know? We should point out the bad points, but we shouldn't bandwagon to the point where publishers and developers are going to see this negative criticism. Square Enix is going to be like, wow, we're never releasing another 3D platformer like this. Look at the negative criticism in the West. The devs are going to be like, forget it. I mean, look at what happened to Balan Wonderworld. If a Yuji Naka game can get this much criticism, I mean, our game, forget about it. We had similar ideas of doing a sort of bare bones, by the books, old school 3D platformer. We're not doing it now. And, you know, so many developers in Japan right now are focused on mobile games, and, you know, I support mobile games. I am a fan of certain types of mobile games, but the point that I'm trying to make here is they might look at releasing a console game and be like, forget that, let's just make a mobile gacha game. There's more money in that. People are, you know, at least in Japan, they're all about those gacha games. They'll be like, forget the West, no more 3D platformers for them. So, you know, we should be critical, let them know what the problems are, but man, to the level of hate that Balan Wonderworld gets, it is bad for the future of the genre. And people need to think about this. Other publishers, other developers are going to look at the level of criticism that this game gets. Unfair criticism, in my opinion, to some degree, because it seems almost universal, and playing this game myself, I just don't understand why so many fans of the genre want to see this game fail and burn when they don't realize what this is doing to the future of 3D platformers. If you want more Japanese developers to move towards mobile games, this is the way to do it. Just hate on anything that is a pure, fun game for the whole family. Anyway, I don't want to ramble too much. We're getting pretty crazy here at the end of this video. But if you've made it to the end of this video, I think this is the kind of stuff you want to hear, right? A lot of the people that completely disagree with me are probably long gone. So I appreciate you sticking around. And I really wanted to talk about Balan Wonderworld. And yeah, try the game, play it. It made me smile at the end of the day. I had a blast with it. And like I mentioned, I will leave links in the description below. If you feel like you want to watch my first playthrough of this game on Twitch, I'll have the links to the highlights. I'll also have a link to, it'll be the first link in the description of my first initial review of this game once I finished it. And yeah. Whew. Feels good to be back talking to you guys. I do understand the value of YouTube videos like this, right? Because if I did this in a stream setting, I'm going to get distracted with chat. So it's good to make videos like this once in a while to get my opinions out there, and I do appreciate you guys sticking around for it. I mention this once in a while because there are still a lot of people that don't realize that I do stream full-time on Twitch now. That's what I do. I do invite you to come over and discuss your opinions on Balan Wonderworld. Tell me what you disagree with me with. Tell me what you agree with. Tell me what your experience of the game was. Tell me if you were one of those people that was like, man, I'm never playing this game. But then you listen to my video and you're like, all right, I'm going to give it a shot. Let me know what you thought of the game. I stream on Twitch almost every day. We do eBay game hunting every Saturday. So every week, at least for 5 or 6 hours, sometimes 10 or 12 hours if I do a weekday stream, we're hunting on eBay. We're playing retro games. We're playing new games. I'm playing my PS5 Series X, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, whatever the heck you can think of. And we always have a blast. So I do invite you guys to come over to my Twitch channel. And I'm always up for a good discussion on, whatever you're looking to talk about when it comes to games. So anyway, that's going to do it for me. Thank you for watching. And hope to be back talking about some of the other stuff that I've had on my mind lately. There's a certain game that I feel a lot of people need to know about. So it's a certain mobile game by a certain RPG developer. And yeah, we're going to be back to talk about that. So anyway, get that teaser out of the way. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.